Chard.
4, 5.
Nice.
He's a chunky little kid.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Look at this chart. Oh. Oh my gosh. Show the camera.
Will you put? There you go. Look at him.
Oh, look how big he is, baby.
Like this, baby.
Hey, big guy.
He is
Come
a
on.
big guy.
Come on.
Oh my
Come on.
goodness.
Come on, big boy. Yeah.
So if he doesn't start crying too soon, I'll just clamp and we'll cut the cord.
Okay. Oh, there we go. There's my boy.
Hey guys, welcome to today's video. Thank you so much for stopping by at my channel today. If this is the first time you're ever visiting my channel, welcome. Thank you so much for being here. And if you've been here before, welcome back. Thank you for coming back. And for today's video, I am going to be sharing my birth story, and I am so excited to share my birth story. As a first-time mom, I was having all these ideas in my head of what I wanted my perfect birth scenario to be, and it was literally the complete opposite. So I want to share that with you today, and also I want to always remember all of the details of my birth day, my day of my son's birth, and also give some information on what I was diagnosed with towards the end of my pregnancy. I don't feel like it's talked about enough. So if you would like to hear my birth story, also see some clips of labor and delivery, and then meet my son at the end once he wakes up from a nap, then just keep watching. So to kick off my birth story, I wanted to inform everyone watching that this was my first baby, my first time ever going through the birth experience. So I had an idea of in my head of exactly what I wanted to happen. And obviously I kept an open mind, but I had still an idea of where the direction I wanted my birth to go. I decided that I really wanted to have a natural birth. I never really thought about it before, but once I knew that there was a baby in my stomach, I don't know what it was, but I just felt like I needed to have a natural birth. I wanted to do that honestly more than anything, and that was my perfect birth scenario. But plans sometimes don't go accordingly, especially when you're giving birth, because so many different things can happen. So I'm gonna start off my birth story around week 33, because that's when things start happening. So I previously filmed my first trimester video, and then also my second and third trimester recap video, all my symptoms, everything that happened in those months. But one thing that I did not mention that is a really important part of my birth was around week 33, I started getting really itchy. And I know when I say itchy, everyone watching this who's pregnant or had a baby is thinking, okay, we all get itchy, what's the big deal? But I was getting really itchy on my hands and on my feet. And normally you think your hands and your feet, they swell, but they don't really stretch out like your stomach or your legs or your arms. I would wake up in the night and just clawing my hands and my feet, and honestly my legs too. So itchy, and I would have to go run my feet and my hands under cold water just to like stop them from being so itchy. And that was how I would have to get back to sleep, because they were just itching me so bad. So my really good family friend, I knew that she had to deliver her baby a few weeks early because she had a condition that started with itchiness on her hands and her feet. And so automatically I was like, wait, do I have this condition that she had? Because I'm also really itchy, but I know it's really rare, so maybe I'll just call my doctor to see. And the condition that I ended up getting diagnosed with later on was cholestasis. And cholestasis of pregnancy affects 1 in 1,000 births. So it's not super common, but it's also not super uncommon. So I had literally never ever heard of cholestasis before if it wasn't for my family friend. So I called my doctor and I said, hi, I'm really itchy on my hands and my feet and my legs. I'm clawing for hours and hours and hours, and there's no rash. That's another important part, is there's no rash at all. You just have uncontrollable itching. So I told him, and he said, and I asked if I can get tested for cholestasis. I said, just to like clear my conscience, just to be safe, do you mind if I can get tested for cholestasis? And he's an older doctor, and he said, no, you're totally fine. In 30 years, I've barely seen a few cases of cholestasis. I promise you don't have that. You're totally fine. And completely brushed me off. So me being a first-time mom, I was like, oh yeah, okay, I'm sure you're right. Yeah, I'm sure it's nothing. I'm sure it's just itchiness. So since I knew what cholestasis was, and I knew the risks, and I knew that the stillbirth rate rises if you have cholestasis, I really wanted to get checked just to be safe. So that was around 34 weeks. So is when I asked him, and he said, no, you're totally fine. Don't worry about it. So a few more weeks passed, and I was around 37 weeks by this point. My mom called and she said, Em, I really think you should get tested. She had spoken spoken to our family friend who also said, just get tested, just be safe, because I had all the same symptoms she did. So my mom said, wouldn't you hate yourself if something happened to you or your baby just because you didn't push to get tested? And I said, you're totally right. I need to get tested. So that was on a Saturday, and that Monday I had my 37-week appointment in the morning anyways. So I met with a different doctor during that appointment, and I told him my symptoms. I told him that I had spoken to the other doctor who brushed me off, and he said, yeah, why not? Let's just get you tested. Immediately I went to the lab, got tested. So Tuesday morning, February 19th, I called the lab the very next morning just to see if they had the results. And they said, oh yeah, we do have your results actually. And she's like, do you want me to read them to you? I said, sure. She said, okay, so the normal range for this is, 1 through 10. Yours is 23. The normal range for this and this are these numbers, and yours is way up here. Your potassium should be between here, and yours is way up here. Just like 7 different things she kept naming off, and that my results were just, my numbers were sky high. And I immediately just started crying. I was like, oh my gosh, because I just knew that would means that I had to be induced immediately. So, and I wasn't quite mentally prepared at that point. So I knew what that meant. So I told the lab lady, I said, okay, I'll just call my doctor. Thank you, I'll call my doctor. So I called my doctor and he said, yes, it looks like you do have cholestasis. And he's like, so Emily, what are you doing this afternoon? And I said, oh my gosh. And I was like, what? I was like, and he's like, yeah, can you come in this afternoon to be induced? Oh my gosh. Thinking that you have a few more weeks of pregnancy, I was prepared. I had my bags packed. I was fine, but I was just like, ooh, I just kind of freaked out. I just freaked out a little bit. So, and I said, okay. I was like, can we do like tomorrow instead, tomorrow morning? And so he said, he's like, as long as you feel your baby kicking a lot, he's like, do your kick counts. If you ever don't feel any movement, come in immediately because we have to induce you. He said, but if you feel comfortable, we're just waiting till the next morning. So then I had to go into work, tell my bosses, sorry, I'm delivering a few weeks early, and I finished up my work for the day, went home, and just trying to be as calm and cool and collected as I could. So being induced was obviously not part of my birth plan at all. So at my 37-week appointment that I had the day before with my doctor, I was 0% dilated, 0% effaced. So he said when I come in to get induced, they're actually gonna give me the cervix softener, let that sit overnight, and then the next morning they would actually do the Pitocin and the induction. So we went in around 8:30 p.m. on Wednesday, February 20th, thinking that I was gonna have the Cervigel sit in my cervix all night to soften it up. So then once the Pitocin is in me, then it would be an easier process. So I went in at 8:30, got my IV, got all set up, and my doctor came in and checked me, and I was at a 2, which 2 days before I was at a 0. So pretty good. So he said, oh, just kidding. I'm just gonna break your water right now. So he just broke my water. Literally, I was like, oh my gosh. Oh, okay, cool. I had no preparation for my water being broken. I was like, okay. I was thinking I was gonna have all night to essentially relax. So around 9:30, my water broke, and I was like, oh, okay, it's starting right now. The party is officially started. So he said, we'll wait a little bit to see kind of how your body reacts to your water being broken, and then we'll start the Pitocin maybe like in an hour or so. And so I started having some mild contractions. Before I was induced, I had 0 contractions, 0 Braxton Hicks, 0 anything. So once my water was broken, I started having some contractions, but they were pretty mild. So then about an hour later, they came in to start Pitocin to get the process moving and shaken. So they started me on Pitocin, and contractions started getting worse and worse, obviously to be expected. Everyone says that Pitocin contractions are worse than regular contractions because Pitocin's forcing your body to contract versus your body doing it naturally. So my whole plan this whole time was to deliver my baby naturally, and I still had that intention, but I knew things were changing, so I was a little more gracious with myself. But I still tried as hard as I could to deliver naturally. The suckiest part, I feel like, to me was I was envisioning my whole pregnancy. I was envisioning when I was in labor, I would be roaming around the halls, walking around, bouncing on the ball, going in the tub, doing all of these different things to help ease and to help progress my labor. The longer your baby is in utero, the more chances they will be stillborn. So that is why with cholestasis, the general rule is the baby is taken out around 37 weeks. So I was 37 weeks, 6 days. So I was past the point that they normally would have induced me if they would have found the cholestasis cholestasis earlier. So with the cholestasis and the rate of stillbirths going up, the baby's heart rate has to be monitored at all times, along with my own, obviously. So I had all of these straps on my stomach and I was hooked into this big machine. So I couldn't go anywhere. I could not walk anywhere. It was driving me nuts. So I asked the nurse, I said, oh, so can I do some like laps and just like take this thing with me? And she said, no, you have to be hooked up to this big, huge monitor. You can't be walking around. So immediately when she told me that, my birth plans, I just got so defeated already. I just said, I can't walk around. Like that was my huge thing, is like, as long as I can be moving and walking. And that's what felt good my whole pregnancy, was being able to move around. So once I found out that I couldn't really move anywhere, and that was really disheartening to me. I couldn't get in the tub. I couldn't really do any of the things that I thought I would be able to do to progress my birth. So I tried for as long as I could to birth naturally, but I feel like I knew deep down that once she told me that I had these limitations with having cholestasis and having to be monitored, that I knew at some point I was gonna get an epidural. I still wanted to birth in labor as long as possible though. So for about 6 hours, I labored naturally, and I was, you know, leaning over the bed, having my husband massage my back. I brought a massager to help massage like during when I had contractions. So I did different things to help birth naturally. So around 3 in the morning, I was like, okay, I need an epidural. So they checked me and I was at a 6 at this point. And I said, okay, I'm progressing pretty smoothly for being induced. They said my progress was going pretty well. So I said, okay, time for the epidural. I wanted to enjoy my labor. And that's kind of what I decided at the end of it. I was already very sad with the direction that it was heading, and that I had to be induced and I had to be at the hospital and I couldn't labor at home. I couldn't walk around. I was already really sad about those things. So I wanted to enjoy labor and birth as much as possible. And I knew that if I wasn't able to do all of those things that I had intended, I wanted to enjoy it as pain-free as possible. So my mindset kind of shifted, but I was really, really hesitant to, because I had prepared for so long to labor naturally. And I was so sad. I was so sad that I felt like I was giving up. And my husband said, he's like, why are you acting like getting an epidural means you failed? Like you're still gonna be birthing a child. So once he prefaced it in that way, I said, yeah, you're right. I still am gonna give birth. So ultimately I decided to get an epidural around 3 o'clock. I was at the point, I was exhausted. I was exhausted. I was so tired. I was up all day long, obviously like prepping for baby stuff, thinking that that night we were gonna have to kind of relax, get the Cervigel in my cervix, and then kind of relax and sleep before Pitocin in the morning. But since I got Pitocin at night instead, we hadn't slept at all and I was just exhausted. I really wanted to sleep a little bit before I had to push. So I ended up getting the epidural around 3:30ish, and it kicked in around 45 minutes to an hour later. The epidural part was not bad at all. I did not think it was hard or hurt or anything. Honestly, I did not feel a thing. So epidural was great. Once it was in, it kicked in around 45 minutes to an hour later, which felt like eternity because I was having so many contractions and they were around 1 to 2 minutes apart. So it felt like they were happening all the time and I was just so tired and wanted to sleep. So that was around 4:30 when I started to be able to getting a little bit of sleep. So I would switch back and forth every 30 minutes or so on my sides. For that was for a few hours, and then around 7:30 in the morning, a nurse came in to check me and I was at a 10. Woo! I was ready to go, but my doctor wasn't even gonna be there for another hour. So they put this peanut thing in between my legs so that I couldn't push the baby out, and it kind of kept my legs and my hips closed. So then around 8:30 in the morning, my doctor got there. He checked me again. He said, yep, we're ready to go. So 7 minutes later at 8:37, I started pushing, and I cannot tell you how incredible my husband was as a birth partner. I purchased hypnobirthing classes to train my body into birthing naturally, and it also teaches a lot to the partner on how to help your partner have a pain-free, relaxing birth. So even though I had to get an epidural, doesn't matter, I still had to push a baby out and I still had to give birth. So my husband also learned so many things with hypnobirthing classes as well. He was a freaking rock star. Like, obviously I birthed a baby, so how it goes, they have your legs back. There was a nurse on one side, my husband on this side, and my doctor in front of me. And every time they would start to tell me to push, my husband would just be yelling to me, the most motivational things. He would say, you got it, you can do it. Okay, you're in a workout, you're finishing your workout, go, go, go. Just like cheering me the heck on. Like I can't, like it honestly makes me really emotional because like I could not get it together. He was like the biggest hype man, cheerleader, just his enthusiasm, energy up here. I enjoyed my pushing experience so much because of him. He was incredible. Okay, enough about that. And my epidural during my pushing was at the perfect level. Perfect level. I was able to feel pressure, but I didn't feel the pain. So I felt the pressure and I felt like, okay, yeah, this is another contraction. Okay, push. But I didn't feel the pain associated with the contractions. And that was just right where you want the epidural. So at 9:37 was my last time pushing. So normally how it worked was they had me push 3 times in a row for 10 seconds. So they would count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I was pushing the whole time. Breathe. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Pushing again. Breathe. Do it one more time. 1 through 10. Pushing, pushing, pushing. And that, it was 30 seconds, just like one deep breath of just intense pushing, and it felt like forever. So I did it the 3 10-second pushes, and then right as the end of the 3rd one was happening, I was excited to relax. They're like, 1 more, you can do it, 1 more push. And I pushed 1 more 10-seconder and he came out. So when my boy came into the world, it was literally the best ever. Like I was just waiting my whole pregnancy. I was just waiting for the moment that we would finally meet our baby. It was seriously just like perfect. They immediately placed him on my chest and that was the best feeling ever. At first I was like, oh my gosh, like I couldn't believe that it was like happening. I don't know if anyone else feels like it's like an out-of-body experience. You're just thinking about that moment for days and weeks and months about meeting your baby, and then it's happening and I'm like, oh my gosh. It's almost like you can't even wrap your head around it. It was amazing though. He was on my chest for around 30 minutes and then they took him to get weighed, measured, all that stuff. And he ended up being born Thursday, February 21st, and I was exactly 38 weeks pregnant. And he still ended up being 8 pounds, 2 ounces, 20 inches long. So I was really happy with his measurements. Hello? Do I have a hungry baby? Sorry, I had to take a feeding break, so hopefully it looks the same in here, but I brought back my little special guest with me. This is Davis. He is my pasty little redhead boy. You are gross. Mom life, you know. I just got lipstick on your head. That's okay. And I actually put him in for the very first time, the onesie. I showed it to you guys in my first trimester video about how I told my husband I was pregnant. But I told him I was pregnant by giving him this onesie. It says, "My daddy is my hero." Huh, and I thought it was so fitting because then we could wear it today. Yes. Yes. Huh. I could just eat him. I could eat his treats. Okay, he's gonna sit on my lap so you guys can't really see him very well. But what I really wanted you guys to take away from this video is to be your own advocate with your birth. Thankfully, my mom kindly pressured me into getting cholestasis checked when I was 37.5 weeks. If I had never gotten that checked, I don't know. I certainly hope everything would have turned out just fine, but I have no idea. If you have cholestasis and are diagnosed with it, you're always induced around 37 weeks due to the risks. So if I never would have known and I would have gone to 40, 41 weeks, who knows what could have happened. As much as it pains me to say that, I think it's important for everyone to be your own advocate, stand up for yourself, and stand up to your doctor. Even though they are doctors, I mean, you know what's best in going on in your body more than they do. So at the end of the day, even if you're a first-time mom and you're really having a gut feeling about something, push for it, ask for it, be your own advocate. Hello, thank you. And the second thing I want you guys to take away from this video is if your birth does not go according to plan, or if you're not able to have a natural birth or an epidural, whichever one you prefer, if it doesn't go according to plan, that is okay. As long as you're healthy, you have a healthy baby, that is the only thing that matters at the end of the day. So that pretty much wraps up my birth story. Thank you so much for being a part of it and watching my video. My next couple videos are gonna be my newborn and postpartum essentials, and also my what I eat in a day breastfeeding edition. Yes. So if you'd like to see those videos, don't forget to click the subscribe button below. And if you did like this video, make sure to give it a big thumbs up. We would really appreciate it. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll catch you next time. Bye.